Well, I remember searchlights. So that was a new thing. But really, the war didn't disrupt. It just went over our heads. I remember my granny taking us to the park as well, and she was walking in front and she was always knitting, and I was behind. And the next thing I knew, I was in the pond. And I was rushed home because apparently there was something going on, where it was the planes or something, and I got frightened and I ended up in the pond.
Well, that's what I was saying about when they fired on the bottom of my bike. I was playing. I was in a little cotton dress and just playing outside, just waiting. Well, the only thing I remembered was somebody had picked us up and run, and they pushed somebody's back door, and we were in this other woman's backyard. And then I could hear noise. Next thing I remembered was I was at home, and they were talking about these aeroplanes and stuff, and I thought, I'm saying, you're a kid and you think, what's an aeroplane? Would never seen them. You didn't have aeroplanes flying all over all the time.
I remember always you had to shut up at 9 o'clock because we had a wireless.
Yes.
And Winston Churchill used to come on.
I thought it would be a good thing for me to tell you tonight how well the war has turned for the Allies during the first 10 weeks.
And then shortly after 9 o'clock, you could hear the planes coming over. If there was any chance of an air raid, if I was in bed, I used to get pulled out of bed, tin hat, gas mask, wrapped in a blanket and carried out into these shelters, which were horrible. They were made of concrete and they were freezing cold and damp. My Uncle Bill, he was an air raid warden, and he used to come around and say, you're all right, and then come and tell you to go back in the house.
Yeah, you just got used to it. You knew you went to bed and you knew you were asleep, and suddenly you were standing up and your mother's trying to put the siren suit on, which come up like trousers and a top, and she's been find your pair of shoes, and it was mayhem.
But they were usually made from somebody else's cut down.
Oh yes, there were stuff made from...
You couldn't buy your own.
You couldn't buy them, no. It was somebody in the family who made them. And because there was only about 3 girls in our family, we all had the same colour, the same design, because they'd come from the same pair of men's trousers or whatever. And the hood went up, and then you were given a piece of blanket, and that's what you spent the night in the shelter, in that, because it kept the heat in. And then I'd get picked up, carried across the road, because all the family who lived in the same street went to my granny's house, because she had a bigger shelter, because it was built between 2 flats, an upstairs and a downstairs. But we had loads of people in. The men could never get in the shelter because they put the kids in first on the back wall, sat them on a bench that was attached to the brick, and you were sat there, and then they were saying, is everybody in? And my uncle, who was always organising, used to do a roll check to make sure everybody hadn't missed anybody, and then the men would go back out the door and stand in the backyard, with glass windows all around them, stood there. And somebody would say, out here, this voice, which would be my granddad, and he'd say, where's war Ninny? Ninny being my grandma, my granny there. And they used to say, you know where she is? She's under the table. And she had a big oak table in the middle of the kitchen. Yes. And she'd be under there. I never seen her, just know they said, she's all tucked up, she's got her blanket, she's there, and she's got her policy bag and stuff. And she stayed there all throughout the raid. She never came out of that table till the siren went. And then she'd come, what are you all doing in here, like?